Well, howdy, and thanks for having me. It's fun to speak in high schools. I normally speak in colleges. It's a rarity I get to speak in high schools. It's also a rarity that public high schools allow me to speak there, because typically teachers want a monopoly on what they're allowed to say in the classroom, and typically that represents one particular point of view in the classroom. So it's always fun to sort of present the other point of view. And I'm going to speak for a while, and then I'm happy to take any questions you may have, especially from you Bernie Sanders supporters. I hear there are quite a few of you. Don't worry, eventually you'll end up paying taxes and get a life. Disagreement, it can be fun. All right, so I want to talk a little bit. I know, don't worry, you can riot later. I want to start by talking about some of the differences between the left point of view in America and the right point of view in America. And these are very serious differences. These are fundamental differences. It used to be that in the country there was basically one vision of what everybody wanted, and it was just a question of how to get there. Everybody wanted prosperity, everybody wanted a solid family life, everybody wanted a basic standard of material wealth, and everybody wanted a stronger America abroad. That seems to have gone by the wayside. There are two very different visions of the universe that are now represented in our political debate. There's one on the left and there's one on the right. And the one on the left is represented, and I think Bernie Sanders is an excellent representative for the American left. I know that wasn't meant as a compliment, but you can cheer if you want. Bernie Sanders is a good representative of the left, because Bernie Sanders actually says what most leftists think, as opposed to somebody like Hillary Clinton, who tends to lie about what leftists think because she wants to be perceived as more moderate for a general election crowd. Bernie Sanders is at least honest enough to say what it is that he believes and what most of the American left believes at this point. And I think that actually Bernie Sanders has done a pretty significant service to the American public debate by speaking out in a way that most people in politics are too dishonest to do. So I want to talk about what exactly Bernie Sanders and some folks on the left think, not just in terms of their specific policies, because we all know they want higher taxes and more redistribution of wealth, but what does that represent in terms of actual values, in terms of actual ethics? There are basically four principles that characterize what it means to be somebody on the left in America and in Europe today, and then there are four principles as to what it means to be on the right. And we can discuss whether you think this is accurate or not, but this is my perception of it. And I think that folks on the left would largely agree with this. The first principle that the left represents, the first principle the left stands for, is the idea that equal outcome is the only value. Not equal opportunity, equal outcome. The idea being that if you have two people in a room and one person has $10 in their pocket and one person has $2 in their pocket, then obviously something has gone madly wrong. Right? There's been some sort of inequality that has existed, structural inequality, there's been exploitation, there's been victimization. It can't be that the guy who's got $10 in his pocket worked hard for the $10, and the guy with $2 in his pocket didn't provide market services worth $2. Right? It isn't possible that people were differently situated at the beginning, and that the guy with $10 has never met the guy with the $2. It must be the guy with the $10 must have done something. The system must have been corrupt in some way to allow there to be this vast imbalance. This is why you hear so much on the left about income inequality. And you don't hear a lot about just poor people and how do we help poor people. You hear about income inequality, as though there's something inherently wrong with the idea that some people are rich and some people don't earn as much money. Now, the fact is, in all of human existence, there's been income inequality because some people have a better skill set, some people work harder, some people have a skill set and a set of services that they provide that more people want to purchase. Bill Gates provides more to people than the local permanently poor person. He has provided a number of services that people want to purchase. He's engaged in more voluntary transactions. For the left, this isn't a representation of equal opportunity being used differently. This is actually a representation of inequality and unfairness. The left equates inequality with inequity. Right? Inequity means unfairness. Inequality just recognizes a reality that everybody is unequal. We all have equal rights, we all have equal access to those rights, but not everybody is equal. Some people are smart, some people are stupid. Some people are tall, some people are short, some people are great at basketball, some people are 5'9" Orthodox Jews who can't jump. Right? There's a lot of inequalities in life. That doesn't mean some inequity has taken place. It is not inequity for the NBA to be largely black. It is not inequity for the NBA to be largely tall. It is not an inequity for the NBA to be largely athletically skilled people. That is the standard for being in the NBA. And it's not inequity for people who are smarter to earn more money if they provide more services to other people and they're not exploiting anybody. But the left believes that just because there are these inequalities, those inequalities have to be rectified by the great God of government. We all have to bow down before the great collective, and don't worry, if one person is poor and one person is rich, all that has to happen is Barack Obama or Bernie Sanders or some other politician comes down from the sky and simply rectifies that imbalance by taking money from one group and giving it to another group. And this has pretty significant ramifications, because the truth is, even folks like Bernie Sanders won't actually say when inequality has been wiped away. Right? If you ask Bernie Sanders, okay, so at what point is there enough income equality that we're okay, he won't tell you. Right? Because the fact is that any sort of inequality is inequality. Unless you're going to go full communist, which even Bernie Sanders isn't willing to do, and say that everybody ought to earn exactly the same amount of money, regardless of the amount of work they put in, inequality will exist. And there was inequality even in places like the Soviet Union. So the fact is that this principle, equal outcome is the only value, it's very troubling, and it also means that we end up siding with some of the world's worst people. Because the fact is that life tends to create a relationship between cause and effect. What you do in your life is going to have consequences. Right? What you choose to do for a career, the choices that you make now, those are going to have consequences. What you do in college, that will have consequences. And those consequences are a natural result. So responsible decisions tend to end with better results than irresponsible decisions. Now, for a lot of folks, they tend to think that you sort of luck into poverty or you luck into wealth. That may be true in rare circumstances, but as a general matter, it is absolutely untrue. If you don't, especially in America, where there actually is tremendous income mobility, people move up and down the income ladder extraordinarily regularly in the United States. Most of the people who are in the top 1% weren't in the top 1% 10 years ago and won't be in the top 1% 10 years from now. There's tremendous income and mobility in the United States. But the fact is that if you believe that there's a cause and effect to human action, then you have to believe that inequality is going to exist as a ramification of the fact that if you do certain things, you will be better off, and if you do certain things, you will be worse off. For example, if you don't want to be permanently poor in America, according to the Brookings Institute, if you don't want to be permanently poor, all you have to do is 3 things, and this is good advice for people of your age, okay? Graduate high school, don't have a baby before you get married, and get a job. That's it. You do those 3 things, you will not be permanently poor in the United States. It's from the Brookings Institute, which is a leftist institution. Cause and effect. But for the left, because they believe equal outcome is the only thing that matters, you should be able to do whatever you want. You should be able to have 10 kids out of wedlock, not graduate high school, and never get a job, and earn the same amount of money as Bill Gates. Because otherwise it's unfair. We have to wipe away all cause and effect relationship in order to achieve this. And what that means is that people who make bad decisions end up being benefited. And this is true both domestically and in terms of foreign policy. Because the truth is that on a foreign policy scale, internationally, countries that are poorer tend to be countries that make really bad decisions about human life. They tend to be countries that don't believe in property rights, don't believe in equal rights, don't believe in liberty. And so those countries tend to be very poor. And that is natural, and that is good, because it incentivizes people to actually pursue liberty, and to pursue decency, and to pursue equal rights. If you wipe away the relationship between cause and effect, you invariably end up siding with the world's worst people. So principle 1 for the left is equal outcome is the only value, not equal opportunity. Whenever President Obama or any other person on the left says what they want is a fair playing field, that's not true. What they want is a fair medal stand. Right? They want everybody on the medal stand at the end of the day, and it doesn't matter if you stink at the game.